Hi, I'm Eli Kirtman. I am the founder and chief marketing officer at G-Force Cybersecurity Ghostwriters, and I help security firms disrupt their competition with tight content and copy. My journey in the security industry, not just cybersecurity, but protecting our nation in various capacities, it started out vicariously through an escape from a troubled youth and an adventure in the United States Navy. And it was then where, quite literally, I had my first call to security and an unwavering pursuit to protect our nation, because while I was on a submarine, that's when 9/11 hit. And I had watched that replay on a TV over and over in a news feed loop, and it was unnerving, and it ignited my passion to take this journey that I'm on now. And since then, it's been all uphill and quite literally around the globe. And I worked with the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, the Office of Inspector General, all of these in various investigative capacities, investigating passport and visa fraud, theft of U.S. technology and weapons, financial crimes, as well as terrorism. And all of these things, in one way or another, had a nexus to cybersecurity, because in the world we live in, everything's online. And back in 2018, I decided to segue into my passion for writing. And it just made sense to go into cybersecurity and write. And I've been doing that since then for the last few years, and it's been a phenomenal journey. So, a cybersecurity ghostwriter, depending on who you ask, means many things. The conventional understanding of a cybersecurity ghostwriter is a writer who produces or writes content or copy for a security firm, but yet the security firm takes all the credit. But that's not entirely true. Ghostwriters are not always invisible. In fact, just over last year, I've bylined and published nearly 24 articles. So we do get a little bit of recognition as ghostwriters. So ghostwriter, could be taken out of context, but the bottom line is we write marketing content for security firms, and we help them position their products and hopefully sell their products. So G-Force, let's emphasize G, is the ghostwriters. G-Force Cybersecurity Ghostwriters is really a culmination of my passion for the craft of writing and to meet the demand in the cybersecurity industry for talented writers. Copywriters come a dime a dozen, but to find a copywriter that has a flair for cybersecurity and can integrate that knowledge into the writing itself, it's a bit harder to come by. And this is a common concern across the cybersecurity landscape. I've heard this in dialogues with chief marketing officers, and it's through all this that really inspired me to go from a freelance ghostwriter or copywriter to building something much more robust and a crew of my own. So essentially, G-Force is a talented crew of copywriters that are deeply entrenched in cybersecurity. In cybersecurity, there's an overused, and perhaps it's not overused, but there's a term called rise above the noise. And the noise is the fiercely competitive space that we operate in this market. Cybersecurity is extremely competitive. All these vendors, these security vendors, these enterprises, they're all doing great things and very important things to protect us, the technology we use, from the adversaries out there. But because of that, it's extremely competitive. These firms, while they have the same mission to protect us, they also have a mission to compete with each other, and they're always trying to get a leg up on each other. And there's a lot of noise around that. There's a lot of slamming other vendors, throwing them under the bus, so that trying to persuade consumers that they're not the one to go to us, so to speak. And all that's noise, in my opinion. But not just my opinion, it's a collective opinion that I've had dialogue with in the marketing industry. And I would like to help firms elevate above that noise and communicate with their consumers informatively, provide insight in a meaningful way so that readers can make a decision on their own who is the better vendor out there. And that's the noise that we're referring to. Disrupt that noise, disrupt the competition, and deliver quality content to your readers. Well, I don't think there's any better way to do business in this industry, but in any competing industry, to be honest with you. Exclusive from a G-Force perspective means to provide a service to a specific security vendor within its respective market segment and not provide the same service to a competing vendor. And this, to me and to my crew of talented writers, is important because how can a single writer produce craft or writing content for two competing vendors simultaneously without introducing any type of implicit or subconscious, unconscious biases or personal preference over one solution over the other? That implicit biases, personal preferences will bleed into one writing while trying to write for the competing firm. And so to be exclusive is to eliminate the competition and focus directly on a partnership with a single firm within its specific segment. Cybersecurity companies, from my experience, always ask for confidentiality. They don't only ask for it, but they expect it. And the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement, it's part of the game. It's like, I've never worked with a security vendor where I did not sign an NDA. And within that NDA, it discusses non-disclosure. It discusses protecting proprietary and sensitive information. It's related to the assets of that company, as well as the personally identifiable information of its consumers, its clients, and the technology that they use, and so forth. And this should not only be asked for by security vendors, but it should be mandated. And in my experience, it has always been that way. However, partners don't always honor that agreement. And I think, in my humble opinion, that is an issue that this industry faces, whether the security vendors know it or not. So G-Force, we are positioning ourselves and our services in a unique way by pledging to our partnerships that we will go exclusive with you. We will not work with your competitors. And when we handshake with a partner, we will honor the commitment to work exclusively with them. And this is how it works, is we agree to work on a long-term basis. In our case, G-Force, we don't accept anything less than a one-year retainer. And here's why. You can work with a dozen cybersecurity ghostwriters all you want throughout the year, but the turnover and the time invested in training each new writer that comes onto your team, you have to train them up, you have to invest time into them, and then they just go after one or two assets. It's a waste of resources on both the security firm's end as well as the writer coming on board. And I've dealt with this over the last 3 years, and it's something that I'm not going to tolerate for my team. I'm not going to put my team in a position where we come in and we write one or two blogs and then we're done and we go off to the other person. It's not part of our business model. So a handshake for us is long-term commitment. You provide a comprehensive list of your competitors, we'll study it and we'll help you crush it. And we're in it for the long haul. And this gives business leadership, their chief marketing officers, their marketing gurus, the finance department, it gives them all a sense of security because they know they invested their money in the right place. Because we're in it together for the long haul to disrupt the competition, and we also improve the bottom line by saving money, resources, and producing quality content for your consumers. The future of cybersecurity is very promising and scary at the same time. As we speak today, here in 2021, it's already a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And by 2025-ish or so, I may have to, verify that stat, but it's in the mid-2020, up through 2031, in fact, I believe. It's stated across various industry researchers, including cybersecurity ventures and so forth, that this market is going to continue to grow exponentially. And here's the thing, not just in cybersecurity, in any business realm, but particularly in cybersecurity, a business cannot succeed without producing written content to engage their prospects and their consumers in hopes to engage and win the hearts of loyal customers that will advocate for their company's long-term success. And in this booming market, this industry, all of these things are only going to grow exponentially. A cybersecurity ghostwriter is a vital role in the end game of a business's success. How can a business succeed without producing great content to engage their audience? They need ghostwriters to do it. I created the G-Force imperatives for many reasons. One, it truly does come down to the fundamentals of being having integrity for whatever we're doing, whether it's in cybersecurity or whatever. I feel like we have a core responsibility to own up to our handshakes, for example, and confidentiality and non-disclosure. These are imperatives in the industry. They're highly expected, and we have a responsibility to honor those things. In terms of leadership, I have unfortunately have encountered many people in leadership roles across the spectrum in the United States government, in the public and the private sector, where folks who had very high level leadership roles, they compromised, and in these cases were intentionally compromised sensitive information. In some of those cases, especially with the government, it was not just a breach of trust and the expectations of confidentiality, but it also jeopardized our U.S. national security. And in the marketing space here in cybersecurity, just recently, over the last 3 years, I've had conversations with owners of companies, and I won't throw anyone under the bus because that's exactly what I'm trying to move away from in this industry, is throwing competitors under the bus. But in a particular case, I had a conversation with the owner of a company who had asked me to work on competing portfolios, meaning for two security firms that were direct competitors of each other, under the understanding that the other competing portfolio didn't have to know that I was going to do that. And I never did that. And I terminated that contract with this said person because not only did it violate the trust between those competing portfolios, but it also violated the trust and the integrity that I had working with this particular company. And that really drove these imperatives home for me. It helped me understand that, this is actually an ongoing issue. And it's not just that it happens here or there occasionally, but it's something that happens regularly. And it's not something that I will accept. It's not something that the talented crew of writers that I bring on to G-Force will accept. And that's why my talented crew is highly vetted. And this is an ongoing, pervasive issue in cybersecurity. And it's something that I'm eradicating with my approach and my business model. And that is built into my code, the G-Force code. It's built into the service that we provide to the security firms that we help. There's a challenge in cybersecurity on the communication front for many reasons, and one of those reasons is there are so many decision makers in cybersecurity that account for the spend on technology. The majority of folks who actually spend money on technology or make the decision to spend money on technology, they're not technical people. They don't speak all the technical jargon that is very common and convoluted in this industry. We can talk about DDoS or insider threats, or we can throw out the 1,000 plus, probably millions of acronyms in this industry, but we do it too much and it confuses the people who don't actually speak that language. They may understand it because we see it in the headlines every day. They may understand it because, for example, the marketing folks are having to produce marketing content to position those services or products or solutions, but they don't really get the finite details of it. And so across the industry, and I've had this dialogue again with other CMOs, chief marketing officers, is we have to find an easily understandable language that everyone can understand. Who are those everyones, and who are these key stakeholders, the people that make these decisions? They're executive leadership, the board of directors, CEOs, they're the finance folks, they're the sales folks, the marketing folks. These people, they are making all these big decisions to buy the security firm's products or their services, but they don't speak that language, so we have to find a common language that they do understand. So instead of focusing on the high-level terminology, the acronyms and the phrases and the terms, why don't we break that down and help them understand, what it is they're looking at? And that's an ongoing challenge. It's not easy. I myself as a ghostwriter struggle with it. a lot. And that's why a writer has to go through many drafts when they're writing something. Write the stuff out in the first place, go back and make it make sense. I forget who coined this, but FUD, F-U-D, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I forget his name, but I believe it was one of the owners of IBM way back in the day. He was talking about fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and it's a term that it lives today, and it's overused or it's underused. And we can use fear and uncertainty and doubt in our marketing content in a bad way, or we can do it in a good way. A bad way would be to manipulate the human emotions in a way that strikes fear, the fear factor, or we craft the language of our content to make the readers feel uncertain about the decisions they're trying to make, or even uncertain about their own safety, because this is cybersecurity. And the reality is, industry research shows that a cyber attack is inevitable, regardless of how safe we think we are or the products that we're using to protect our technology. We've seen it in the news recently, the SolarWinds attacks. That attack bled from the private and public sector right into the United States government. Federal agencies using these products were exposed and compromised. It's like, we're supposed to have faith in our own federal government, and yet their own systems and infrastructure were compromised. No one's safe from cyber attacks. And the problem is, we use this FUD, these fears and uncertainties and doubts, to leverage those emotions into humans, the readers, the consumers that we want to buy our products and services. But we do it in a way where we try to make them feel like if there's no other solution out there but ours. If you don't buy ours, you're going to get attacked. Well, guess what? We're probably going to get attacked anyway. So why don't we spin the message around and incite hope in the reader? Talk about the solution in a very objective way, in an insightful way, and then empower the reader to make a decision on their own. If you think you're the best solution out there, okay, prove it. But you know what? Put your stuff beside your competitors and let the reader decide what's best for them. Don't toy with their emotions. Don't make them afraid that they're going to get struck. Maybe they will. You know what? I've been struck. It sucks, but we overcome that stuff. But don't stir people in their sleep and give them nightmares over all this stuff, when in fact you could actually give them hope that there's a solution out there. Let them decide on what that solution is, educate them, empower them. Maybe you'll win them over, maybe not. How we craft the messages that we deliver to the readers, the folks that we're trying to convert into buyers of our products and services, and hopefully win them over as long-term customers that will advocate for our business success. Well, how we deliver that message will actually either break or make our success. I mean, if we craft the language in a way that frightens the crap out of them, quite frankly, they're going to run to the exits and go for someone else, your competitor. But if we craft it in a way that compels them to want to learn more, maybe they'll click that download this white paper button and want to learn more. Or maybe they'll send your email to their trash bin if you craft that language in a wrong way. And so here's how we can solve this. I mean, if we're communicating to the sales folks who need that product, or if we're communicating to a CEO, if we're trying to write an article, for example, that expresses thought leadership on how a security firm's solution solves this pervasive issue of cybercrime, which is ravaging the entire world. This is a global issue. It's not just a United States issue. If we craft that language to the CEO in a way that she or he understands it, then that message is going to be effective. But if we assume that CEO understands all these technical terms and all this stuff, or if we assume that CEO wants our product without even taking the time to inform them about it, then we really messed up and we failed to communicate, and we may have just lost an opportunity for a loyal customer. If the same is true if you're talking to marketing folks. Marketing folks know this stuff because they're dealing with it, but they may not truly understand everything that's behind it. Like if you're talking to a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, about how they can improve the security posture of their enterprise, speak in a language that they understand. If you have a product that helps the security operations center team and the analyst and the manager, talk about that. Talk about alert fatigue. Talk about burnout. Statistics show that CISOs don't sleep well because they're constantly wondering how they can protect their enterprise. Talk about that in a context that is educating them and positioning your product or service in a way that they actually want it, but don't slam them in the face, because you know what, there's alert fatigue in marketing too. We're constantly pinging people's inboxes and stuff with download this or you're gonna get attacked or something. I'm being a little dramatic there, but you get the point, right? There's a way to communicate, and how we use the language, how we craft the vocabulary, it makes a difference. How we communicate cybersecurity to the general public, whether it's a prospective buyer or just educating, society in general, it's important. And it's not just cybersecurity, and cybersecurity is not only relative to the United States national security. Cybersecurity is considered one of humanity's greatest threats today, because we're all connected, everyone in the world. If we're privileged enough to have access to technology and we're connected on the internet, in one way or another, we're all connected. Our personal information is out there. You order something from Donato's, guess what? If you order it online and you paid online, you just put your information out there. We think it's safe. We trust the people that we give that information to, but there's also bad people out there, bad actors, adversaries, the enemy. And they're out there combing the entire digital landscape, hoping to get our information, either to sell it on a dark web or to use it against us, strike us with a ransomware attack. It's a global issue. It's not a U.S. issue, it's a global issue. And we need to create a dialogue on a global scale that educates everybody. One of the things I love about, I don't even know where to start, but I love so many things about what I do. When I segued from the Foreign Service to pursue my passion and my dream to write, I actually went to be a novelist. I went into copywriting to put meat and potatoes on my table, to pay my bills, to pay my mortgage, my car payment. Little did I know that I would actually come to truly enjoy what I do as a copywriter and as a ghostwriter. But I also discovered that I absolutely love the marketing aspect of it too, the whole strategy. For me, life is a big chess game. How you move your pieces will dictate, whether you get to the other side of that board, whether you come out the other end victorious or not. And it's not always about victory, but it's the strategy. And in marketing, it's all about strategy. But it's a very human strategy, because in marketing, and when you put marketing and copywriting together, we're communicating with human beings. And there is a strategy behind it. How we craft the language, there's a strategy behind that. We can say something in a very distasteful way and turn the reader off, and they don't want anything to do with our products or services or whatever they're reading that we crafted for them. We say it in an engaging way, they want to learn more. There's strategy behind that. There's marketing strategy. And I love that. Whether we're crafting language for social media channels or trying to make, the web pages on our website, which is our digital business home, we live in, very much so on this digital landscape, we live in a non-brick and mortar world. And many businesses today absolutely rely on their website. The copy, the content we put there, it makes a difference. And there's strategy behind all that. So to me, writing is not just, penning some really good, engaging, tasty content and copy. It's also implementing the strategy behind that to talk to an audience in a very special way.